Final Fantasy is storming forward in full force. Final Fantasy XVI is coming our way June 22, 2023, following Clive Rosfield as he ventures into a journey of revenge in the tumultuous land of Valisthea. It is a land brimming with the light of the Mother Crystals and home to dominants, individuals with the power to host godlike beings called Icons. Excitement over the game is firing up as hot as Ifrit's Hellfire. But before we hand over the torch to the 16th bearer, it doesn't hurt to look back at what came before it. It has been 7 years since Square Enix released Final Fantasy XV on November 29, 2016. The story follows Noctis Lucis Caelum, a prince who must bear the weight of his nation against an evil that holds an age-long vendetta against the royal line of Lucis. While it had garnered a loyal, dedicated fanbase and a killer road trip experience, we have to be honest and say, Final Fantasy XV wasn't perfect, much to the 10-year wait the fans had to sit through. But for whatever its shortcomings are, there is a lot to celebrate and learn from Noctis' journey. So we here at Game8 made a list to see what 16 could learn from its predecessor, and what 15 itself could offer more as a cautionary tale. Final Fantasy XV introduced the world to one of the most lovable boy bands, band of brothers anyone could ever ask for. The Chocobros, as they are fondly called by the fandom, are Noctis' stunt entourage, which includes Gladio, Prompto, and Ignis. We spend a lot of time with these lovable oafs on the road, camping out under the stars with a good meal, morning exercise while half asleep, and all the photos. You really get to spend time with them. You get to see their friendship blossom, their brotherhood embolden, and their loyalty steeled. And we get a lot more of them through some DLC as well, each of them shining in their respective narratives and revealing a lot more of who they are and what they fight for. If only they were made to shine fully within the main game itself. As much banter and small moments of character development the Chocobros have amongst themselves, it did feel like fans were forced to shell out money just to see them grow individually. And it is very clear in the base game where these gaps in the story are for the DLC to fill in later on. What we'd love to see when 16 hits is that chance to fall in love with Clive and the rest of the cast properly and in one game. For us to see each character naturally grow into their own, to be able to not only see the dots, but connect them, and in the end, have it all make sense. The trailers have done a good job of distinguishing characters with their archetypes and goals. Clive and his determination for revenge, Joshua and the sudden power thrust upon him in his youth, Best Boy Torgal the Wolf, and we can't wait to see how the cast merges and clashes with one another. Valisthea already sets the tone for the next installment, bringing in classic medieval fantasy vibes as a departure from 15's more inclined fantasy based on reality. Noctis' world of Eos is both familiar yet fantastical, riddled with visuals that take inspiration from modern-day architecture and cross-country Americana, juxtaposed with looming crystal outcrops, knights in armor, and sacred tombs. Nothing really brings you in like walking through the vivid marketplaces of Lestalum, the beautiful waterways of Altissia, and the relaxing shores that make up the Golden Key. May your heart be your Golden Key. And like any road trip, true to the road trip fashion, what you do get most of the time is... While Lucis has a lot of places to awe at, in the end, FF15 feels like it's a mile wide, but an inch deep. The game has a lot of cool things to explore, but most of the time you're sort of stuck in between an authentic road trip experience filled with claustrophobic shoulder bumping and the continuous changing of the radio music. Some parts of the map feel especially bare, and some stopovers just feel like a slice from the same cake. Another aspect that would mess with the explorative experience was the janky encounter predictability. Yep, Sometimes Noctis would be harmlessly frolicking around looking for resources or hunting down a beast or something for pay, when all of a sudden high-level Magitech infantry start raining from the sky. So there goes our good time, our focus, and much of our battle energy just trying to fend for our lives. Stuff like that really messes with the flow of activity, so it would be nice if FF16 fine-tunes their experience to keep the momentum of agency crystal smooth. But as we know so far, FF16 is not going to use the open world format. And while it may be quite the change for gamers ready with their high-res cameras and camping gear, the devs of FF16 reassure us that while our journeys in Valisthea won't be as open world, the format isn't entirely linear as well, so don't expect a straightforward path to the finish line. From Rosaria to the Crystal Dominion, the lore is planted and ready to take root. Clive has been shown traversing barren wastelands on Chocoboback, looking through the verdant thicket of lush forest and into ruins nestled in the wild. Heck, we've seen giant crystal chambers in the official World of Valisthea trailer. Valisthea seems to know what its kingdoms are and what they stand for, which is the best foundation for some spicy court intrigue, adventurous exploration, and intricate politicking. Final Fantasy XV veered away from the classic turn-based battle system that has epitomized the franchise for the longest time. Combat is flashy thanks to cinematic team-up attacks and party-specific tech abilities. Fighting as the weapon adept Noctis, along with the rest of the Chocobros, delivers frantic but dynamic encounters. But unfortunately at the cost of control. Even on the game's final version, it still feels like half the time you are guessing if Noctis will actually do the type of attack you want, when you want. It leads to this odd sense of a passive experience for the players that also feels more rudimentary than intended. From what we've seen so far, Final Fantasy XVI also adopts the real-time combat format, this time with more player control, and instead of the power of the kings, Clive has the power of the icons. The gameplay looks epic and dizzyingly fun. With the combat director of Devil May Cry 5 at the helm of developing 16's gameplay, we do have hope that this does give the player a level of control that 15 came up short with. That's not to say that FF16 has nothing to iterate on what 15 has done. The style seems akin to its predecessor, albeit leaning toward its more fantastical themes as insignias and elemental magic slice through the air. We don't see any footage yet of being able to fight as any of Clive's allies, but we're definitely keeping an eye out for those epic icon battles. Watching Clive in action brings us hope that playing as him will give us the same adrenaline rush that Noctis brought, albeit with a lot more of that arcane flair. We hope 16 captures that full throttle charge as we take on our foes who get in the way of vengeance. Listen, I love Noctis. I would take a missile barrage from a Niflheim Magitech armor to the face for him, his friends, and Umbra and Prina. But a story can only do so much with lovable and relatable characters when the story itself is lacking. FF15 had a promising premise, a cursed bloodline, political strife, the power of friendship, and more. It was a story that a lot of people have been waiting for almost a decade since it was initially announced as Final Fantasy Versus 13. But stuff gets in the way, and the game went through a rough development cycle. We were able to explore the characters involved, but there were a lot of loose ties that left us wanting for more in an epic overarching saga of events. The game is beautifully scored, its people and creatures meticulously designed, its main cast expertly performed, and honestly it did make us cry a few times.
You guys are the best.
And the ending sequence made us go through all of the emotions. But it is very obvious that the final product left a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, which was made a little more evident as 15 started getting patches that haphazardly add and edit stuff into the game. Going back to characters and their story, unless you played the DLC episodes, you wouldn't know about Prompto's past, or Ignis' strength of loyalty, and how glad you had to fight Gilgamesh to prove his worth. Hells, Even Arden got some heart-wrenching backstory as to why he's such a dick. While it was going strong, Square Enix cancelled the remainder of the planned DLCs, notably that of the badass Dragoon Aranea Highwind and Noctis' sweetheart Luna Freya. Both are characters that were particularly given the shortest of straws on how the story utilized them. Luna, the oracle that can command the astral summons and was shown to harbor immense power. She is literally the MacGuffin the Chocobros were supposed to go for Noctis to marry. The possibilities the story can do with the premise given to her. Well, the story sort of did her dirty by removing her from the picture when we were finally able to see her and Noctis interact properly in-game for the first time. As for Aranea, she made an amazing first impression, but as the story continued, she was just kinda there and just kinda left with like, okay, bye. We think 16 can learn from this, to keep the story streamlined and not sacrifice consistency. Every character, action set piece, moments of exposition or drama, all moments big and small need to play a part in this grand fantasy for a satisfying payoff. So far, what gives us hope that 16 will avoid the narrative fumbles of 15 is that there is a clear direction of what Clive's role is along with everyone else's for the story. But of course, we don't have much to go on other than what marketing showed us thus far. So we guess we'll only really know once the game hits the shelves pretty soon. In the end, 15 is still a good game and we're sure to fall in love with 16 too. But it doesn't hurt to be aware of what you love, the good and the bad. In the end, these are just some things we thought about that could be taken into consideration of how past plays went. Of course, Final Fantasy 16 is already underway and the date is drawing so near now. And I'm sure the team has done their utmost best to deliver a game that they'd be proud to release. And one that players can enjoy and fondly look back to once the final fanfare is played for the 16th fantasy. Which is the feeling we still get from 15. Yes, it's not perfect, but what is a perfect game? Does it even exist? In the end, we're not gonna have a textbook memory of glitches gone wrong, or plot points done dirty. We're going to remember the funny thing a friend said to you while on the road, the sudden expedition to take pictures of something silly with a pal, and just the overall good-natured tomfoolery that follows a band of well-meaning misfits. We're hoping to find that same heart and soul once the gates to Valisthea are open to us. But for the meantime, we will just have to wait and see what lies beyond. We hope you enjoyed this video and got your brain moving a little. Please give it a thumbs up and let us know what other mistakes or lessons Final Fantasy 16 needs to learn from 15. To keep up to date with the latest gaming news, reviews, and other fun content around all things gaming, go ahead and subscribe to our channel as well. This is Game8 Information Station, and we'll see you in the next one.